Bruce Hornsby is a 3-time Grammy-winning musician who is currently on a theater tour in support of the 25th anniversary of Spirit Trail, an album that, while not his most commercially successful, is one of the most beloved by his fans. For anybody interested in getting the 25th anniversary edition of Spirit Trail, there are some special add-ons to that. You can go to brucehornsby.com to find out more info and also to see if he is coming to a town near you. Bruce, thank you so much for the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Trey. Had a tough time connecting, but we got it. We finally made it.
Well, I'm excited for this conversation for several reasons, the biggest of which is that you're going to be here in Austin performing at the Paramount Theater on Tuesday, October 24th for the 25th anniversary of Spirit Trail. There is a really cool 25th anniversary edition of this double album that is out now. It's a 3D set in physical format, or a 3LP set, which contains the original double album, 4 previously unreleased songs, and over 70 minutes of previously unreleased live performances. The collection is actually housed in a clamshell box and includes a 36-page book featuring new liner notes by you, lyrics, and photography from Danny Clinch, too. Now, even though this wasn't your most commercially successful album, a lot of your fans not only recognize this album, but it is beloved by the hardcore Bruce Hornsby fans. What do you love about Spirit Trail?
Well, I love the fact that everything you said is totally accurate. So whatever your info source is, it's the correct one. So how do I feel about Spirit Trail? Well, for one, I love the cover. It was very controversial. Old people don't like it. Young people like it. It's a picture of my Uncle Charles with a cigarette coming out of his ear and his eyes, and him lighting the cigarette and with a wide-eyed look on his face. And when we approached the record company in '98, RCA, with this cover idea, they thought we were kidding. But my manager at the time, Q Prime, the Monsters of the Midway, Bernstein and Mensch, informed them that no, this is what we like. So it's become sort of semi-iconic in our world, and so look, it just holds up well. It's the first time that I dealt with sort of reinventing or sort of broadening my pianistic abilities and dealing with two-handed independence on the piano. So there's a lot of that on the record, and space for that. And that sort of thing guards against commercial success. The commercial success is mostly about a really good song sung well, and I get that. And that's really good songs is also totally what this record was about. And as far as the singing, it holds up, again, very well for me. So, yeah, there's lots of reasons. I could keep going, but it just felt like it was time to shine a light again on this record because, as you said, it wasn't a big commercial success, but it's aged very well.
Was there some sort of epiphanous moment or maybe a conversation with a fellow musician that caused you to change how you played piano for this record?
Okay, there was always a door to a door of piano, a room of piano playing, again called Two-Handed Independence. I would open that door and look in and go, it's too difficult, I'm not going to deal with it. But when I turned 40 years old at that time, end of 94, I decided, well, I'm 40, am I going to just rest on my laurels like most of my friends were doing and sort of ride into the sunset with what I know now, or am I going to challenge myself to recommit myself to the study of the piano in this manner? And there's one guy who exemplifies this. It's Keith Jarrett. There's one particular piece on his second solo record, Bremen and Lausanne Concerts. It's called Solo Concerts, Bremen and Lausanne. And it was a mind-blowing piece. It's still mind-blowing to anyone who deals in that area of music. And there's no name. It was just an encore from one of the concerts. And I just I couldn't deal with it. It's sort of a split brain thing, like the old pat your stomach and rub your head and vice versa. So I decided to get into this. And so I dealt with it, and it transformed my whole musical universe. And so right, Keith Jarrett, on a pianistic level, was the influence. On a songwriting level, I'd been utilizing the jazz language in my music from on my previous two records, Harbor Lights and Hot House, and was interested in moving to another area, informed by this pianistic development or interest and pursuit. And so the songs are a little simpler, less sort of harmonically florid, and maybe a little edgier. Edgy is kind of a cliche and can be, and it's a stupid word, but that's the word that comes to mind, alas.
Well, it's interesting because when somebody tends to take a risk with something or try something new, it's hard to try other new things at that same time because you're so focused on getting that one new thing correct. But as you just mentioned, you're not only taking risks with your piano playing style, you're touching on subjects that you never really had as a musician before. Was that consciously in the back of your mind that you were trying all these new things at once? And was there any concern that one might interfere with your ability to properly address the other?
Well, it's a good question, but I feel like I was totally consumed with both and felt like that they went hand in hand. For instance, I would write a song, and I wrote a song, for instance, called Resting Place, and it's a song about, to be frank, an overweight person who catches a whole lot of crap for that, and his life dealing with that. And so I had the song. I was influenced by the group Cracker. It had this great song called Low, and I just loved it. And so I decided to write my version of Low. And with the great John Leventhal, well known for the having produced those Sean Colvin records in the 90s and early 2000s, I guess, along with his producing his wife Roseanne Cash's records. So Leventhal was playing all over this spiritual record, adding a beautiful guitar texture to the whole thing. So I wrote Resting Place, the song, and then decided, there's a great way to apply this two-handed independence idea to this song. So I created a new area in the song to showcase that. And so that was it. So I was dealing with both things, but I think they ended up complementing each other. Again, not for radio, mind you, because, look, I got away with soloing on the radio a couple of times with the way it is in Valley Road several years before this, but I wasn't expecting to. I wasn't making the record for that. I was making the record for these artistic reasons.
It must have been nice that you had gotten to a point in your career where you could afford to take that sort of risk too, where you really didn't have to be concerned with commercial success or keeping songs under a certain amount of time, where you could really just let things loose creatively like that.
Well, I was letting them loose early on. I mean, the way it is 5 minutes and 5 seconds long.
Yeah.
Valley Road, about the same. So I was never trying to fit into that narrow stylistic box and range of music that is allowed on hit radio. It just happened. It was a wonderful accident, a great fluke. But so no, but people tend to typecast that I was making one type of record and then making another. Not true. I was blowing on the top 40 songs too. It just happened to work, and don't ask me why. It's only going to work a couple of times. I call those early hits the best kind of novelty record. The only other person I know who had that type of situation was Mark Knopfler with Sultans of Swing. It's another song that is pretty long with a lot of guitar soloing. So Way It Is and Valley Road were my versions of that type of thing. Again, neither Dire Straits nor I were trying to, quote, write a hit, unquote. We were just writing a song with obviously oddball subject matter. Valley Road, for instance, being about a guy who gets a girl pregnant and they send her away to the school for unwed mothers, and he's left holding the bag. So, again, not your standard top 40 lyrical material.
No, definitely not. I actually spoke with Ben Folds a few days ago, and he's in a similar vein in terms of guys who will not compromise their creative vision for whatever games the music studios have wanted to play. And both you guys are really good storytellers as well. For you, what is the key in telling a good story through music?
The key to telling a good story, I don't know, just have a narrative sense of the subject matter and go from point A to point B, just like an old-time traditional folk song. The old, for instance, old-time murder ballads in traditional American music. It goes back. It's a long-standing tradition, and I've been deeply influenced by that. So I've been writing songs about the guy who got caught in the bushes behind the church on the day of his wedding with another woman, and the wedding getting called off, and that's called White Wheel Limousine. So I mean, I've been doing this for years. But the guy who poisoned his wife, and that's called Country Doctor. So I have loads of my own sort of murder ballads and crazy folk song influenced music, and so just following my ancestors, following my influences that way.
Well, you've got such a great sense of humor too, Bruce, which is why I shouldn't have been surprised when I was watching what has turned out to be one of my all-time favorite dark comedies in 2009, World's Greatest Dad, starring the late, great Robin Williams and directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. You make a cameo in that movie, seemingly out of nowhere. How did you end up as a part of World's Greatest Dad?
Okay, so Bobcat and Robin grew up in the comedy clubs together, and they're great. They were great friends and cohorts. And in fact, around the time that Robin passed, there was talk about me doing some scoring for another film that they were going to make together. So I guess they were putting their heads together about they needed Robin's character to be a fan of a certain musician whose music kind of came in and out and was a bit of a force or an important part of the story. And so I guess Robin picked me. And so they asked me about this. And there was several of my songs dotting the landscape throughout the movie. And so that's part of the story, is his involvement, his interest in my music, and the distaste that his young, sort of recalcitrant son had for my music and anything like that. He also hated heavy metal music too.
Yeah.
So anyway, you'd have to see the movie. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And so in the end, they were able to, in the movie, the school was able to find me and ask me to make an appearance at this memorial service for this kid, his Robin Williams' son. And so that's when I come in, and I had 2 lines and was 0 for 2. I was pretty terrible playing myself, but I enjoyed doing it. And we had a great time making that.
I'm assuming you also had a great time playing with the Grateful Dead from 1988 until Jerry Garcia's death in the mid-1990s. And I'm also assuming that all the reasons you talked about why you've been so good at making music over the years is why things jive so quickly with getting in with the Grateful Dead. Just your unwillingness to compromise that creative vision and not be too consumed with song length while making sure that whatever it is that is being put down on paper or whatever is being put out to the masses is the most complete version of that too.
Yeah, it's just never why I was in it. I'm an old school musician. I played in my big brother's Dead cover band. It was just always about the music for me. I was a total jazzer for a while. I dealt with, again, Keith Jarrett and Bill Evans and Bud Powell and Wynton Kelly and McCoy Tyner and Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea and on and on and on and on. Dealt with Leon Russell and Elton in sort of more rock world, piano, Dr. John, et cetera, et cetera. It was just a lot, and I continued to be a lifelong student, and that's why I do it. The rest is not important to me, and so. But the Dead connection was very simple. It had nothing to do with any of this, other than the fact that they liked what I was doing. They heard about this band riding around the country, having to learn how to be headliners on their first 9-song record, and so fleshing out their concert with a couple of covers. When I Paint My Masterpiece by Bob Dylan, done in the Levon and the Band version style, and I Know You Rider. And we were taking a song of mine called The Red Plains into I Know You Rider. So instead of China Cat Rider for them, it was Red Plains Rider for me. And so they heard about this and they got interested in the music, and they asked us to open 2 shows for them in Monterey, California in May of 1987, and it just kept on going from there. The next year, they asked us to open 2 or 3 more, and the next year, and the next year after that, from 87 to 90, 4 years in a row. And then it culminated really sadly with the death of the great Brent Midland and them asking me to join them and replace him. And I told them, look, if you'd have gotten me 4 years ago before, I'd have joined you, but right away, and would love it. But since this is happening for me, I've got this thing going pretty well for myself. I don't feel like I can just commit and stop that. So, but I will help you through this tough time if you want me to. So I did for about 100 shows, but it was a very natural connection. I would sit in with them. Then after I opened for them, and then I would come and sit in with them sometimes when I wasn't opening. So, and then Garcia played on our 3rd record, the Last Range record. It just was this growing relationship that culminated in my joining them, winging it with no rehearsal at Madison Square Garden for 5 nights. That was crazy.
That is wild. Did Jerry have an influence on how you thought about things musically?
Well, Garcia was a walking encyclopedia of folk music and old-time traditional music. He had his bluegrass band, Older Than the Way. When we toured Europe in 1990, fall of 90, after the Garden Run, we would sit sort of back-to-back to each other on the bus riding through Europe and just talk about old-time music. And so I learned a lot from him. I would say so in that way he was an influence, because I was always interested in that, but he steeped me more in that tradition. And so, yeah, that's probably the way. People always like to say that, wow, Bruce really opened his music up after he started playing with the Dead. And there's a little truth to that, but it's mostly true that I was influenced by them as a songwriter, because I think they're underrated as songwriters, although they are in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Garcia and Hunter are. So there's that. But I think they're the Grateful Dead body of work, body of songs is right up there with any body of work in the popular music world, in the rock era, say, from the Beatles, Stones, Bob Dylan. Dead's right up there, at least to me. And so I was influenced specifically by certain songs that they wrote that I just thought, wow, I'd love to write a song of my own that gave me that feeling.
Gosh, they have so many good songs over the years. Truckin' and Scarlet Begonias are probably 2 of my favorites. Do you have a favorite Grateful Dead song?
I tend to go for what I consider to be the more deeper, sort of slower ballad material. Wharf Rat is a favorite. Probably, if I had to name one, that's the one that continues to give me chills. But then there's Days Between, and there's Broke Down Palace, and Black Muddy River, and Standing on the Moon, and you could just keep naming them. But I just named all slower songs. Of the up-tempo songs, I love Jackstraw, which is a weird song. I think it's Weird Hunter. But most of the Garcia Hunter songs were slower. There's Roe Jimmy and Tennessee Jed and Gone and Ramble on Rose. You can just keep naming them. So great. Loser is an absolute killer. So many.
I'll have to check Loser out. Now, that 9-song album that you guys were touring with, the one that really put you and the range on the map, is The Way It Is, of course. And one of your most well-known songs is the title track from that album. And for some younger people who may not realize this, that was sampled on the Tupac song that was officially released in 1998 called Changes. I think they recorded it earlier in that decade. Did Tupac or his people come to you about sampling that song before they put it on a track?
Well, they came to me after he had been assassinated. About a year after that, I got a cassette out of the blue from the Shakur Foundation with this song that they'd found, and a note that said, well, we've been going through his voluminous files of posthumously of all the music that he'd created before he died, and they found so much amazing stuff, and including this. They said this is going to be the single from his greatest hits record that will come out next year. And so, one, we wanted you to be aware of it, and two, we wanted to negotiate with you the publishing splits, and so yes, that was that. Now that wasn't the first sampling of Way It Is. There have been maybe 3 or 4 or 5 up until that point, but after that, there have been so many more. The great young rapper from Chicago, Polo G, did a great version 2 or 3 years ago called Wishing for a Hero. It's just fantastic. And I ended up doing a duet with him remotely during the COVID era for the virtual Bonnaroo Festival in 2021. But anyway, the Tupac thing is iconic. It truly is. And so, for instance, I have a son who played AAU basketball. He plays in Europe now. He played at LSU, and he early on he played in the great Boo Williams AAU program. So he's the only white dude on the team. And so what was so great about it is the young kids, his young 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old teammates through the years, they all knew Tupac's song. And when they found out that old grandpa here wrote it, it gave me a little extra cachet in that hood of Hampton, Virginia, Newport News, Virginia. So yeah, all good. But look, I love what he did. It's special, and sometimes I will channel those lyrics in my version of Way It Is.
Oh, very cool. Well, you come from an athletic background, and that is represented in your sons. You had a son who ran track at Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The other son, as you just mentioned, he started at, I think, UNC Asheville, played at LSU, and now he's playing overseas too. Just how much do you love sports? How big a part of your life is sports?
Well, you did your homework. Yeah, Russell Hornsby was a very solid runner for many years, the greatest program in track, in college track and field, the Ducks of Oregon. So I was a Duck dad, and then a Bulldog dad at UNC Asheville, and a Tiger dad at LSU. So look, I've always been a bit of a jock. I was a jock in school before I got deeply involved in the piano, and so I saw that my boys showed a natural ability in this area. So I said to myself, well, this is something maybe I can help them with. So they just went on and did that, and one of them's continuing to do it. So yeah, that's that. Lucky us.
Yeah, well, I've got a 9 and 7-year-old at home right now, and they are in the full swing of youth sports, which is very consuming for the weekend. But while it's fun to watch them out there and finding successes, like, sports is so important for young people especially, because it teaches you the value of not just winning, but maybe most importantly, losing, and how to deal with losing and how to stick with something to get better. And maybe ultimately you can achieve that greatest success, which is, of course, helping a team win a championship.
Yeah, look, I think music is also a great outlet for sort of developing as a person, and but sports can be as well. Youth sports is fraught with peril, though, with crazy ass sports dads, screaming at refs and storming onto the court to pick a fight with an opposing coach or whatever. So it can be a drag. We live that, and so you have to be careful with all that. You're in the chauffeur years. Our chauffeur years are long since over, but you're in it. So enjoy it. If you have the right attitude about it, it can be a great fun and actually kind of beautiful.
Yeah, thankfully we haven't seen any scraps between parents and other parents or parents and officials just yet. But I think if it were to come down to it, I would probably have to be the guy that's trying to break things up. But again, thankfully here in the Austin suburbs, that hasn't happened just yet. All right, last question, Bruce, because you are coming to town for in support of the 25th anniversary re-release of Spirit Trail. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is an incredible re-release. Highly recommend people check it out. You can purchase it through brucehornsby.com. This isn't your first foray into Austin, obviously. Do you have a fondest memory from your time either performing or hanging out here?
Probably the first time I played Austin and the last time I played Austin. The first time I played was opening in 1986, the fall of 86, for Steve Winwood at the Irwin Center, Frank Irwin Center, I believe it was called. And so that was very memorable just because I was opening for one of my heroes, my childhood heroes, Winwood. Loved Traffic and Spencer Davis and his own records. And then the last time I played was the ACL Festival. Was at the ACL Festival on both weekends about 3 years ago. And so 4 years ago, just pre-COVID era. And so that was really special too. And so, yes, Austin obviously is a great music town, and we've had our moments, totally memorable moments there. My gig, and speaking of the Spiritual Box, you come to my gig, you get the box with the price of the ticket. And so there's that. And I'll be playing several songs from Spirit Trail. I'll be playing several old hit songs in the way that I like to play them now. Not unrecognizable. I haven't rendered them unrecognizable. Not yet, anyway. And then other favorites, and I take requests. So the requests play a large part in what I'm going to play because I'm just kind of winging it up there.
You take requests, not just from your music, but from other music too, or specifically from your music?
Well, mostly. I'm not. I won't play many covers, but if something strikes me as something interesting, I'm just trying to entertain myself up there, but it's an attempt at deep musicianship. Whether I bring it off, that's the adventure of every night. Because I'm walking the tightrope without a net. My left hand is the band. There's no band to cushion me when I screw up. So yeah, all of that will be in evidence.
Would you strongly consider if myself or somebody else were to scream out "Low" by Cracker? Would you give that one a try?
I would love. Look, I would say to you, I wish that I could, but I don't know. Don't you want to come down like some misplaced cosmonaut? Yeah, a million miles below your feet. Yeah, I don't really know it. That's all I remember. So I would really do a bootleg ass version of Low, and that's to my detriment because I love it. So anyway, hey, don't you want to calm down or whatever it is? Yeah, I'm just mad for the song. So yeah, probably not, unfortunately for me.
Bruce, I'm a teenager of the 1990s. That was awesome. Even that little bit right there. He is multi-Grammy winning musician Bruce Hornsby. He is a legend, folks, and he's going to be here Tuesday, October 24th at the Paramount in support of the 25th anniversary of Spirit Trail. There is a re-release. Every ticket purchased gets the 3 CD set or the 3 LP set, and it has so many additions to that as well. Go for that, or just go to see a legend perform in show at a beautiful place to catch live music. Bruce, thank you so much for the time today, man. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully this isn't the last time, and safe travels around the country in support of Spirit Trail.
Be with you, girl, like being low. Hey, it's like being stoned. Love it, man. Thank you for that. And we'll see whoever comes on Tuesday. Thanks a lot, Trey.
Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Hear more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. And thanks to you for hanging out. For more of the show and to connect on social media, visit booksonpod.com. We'll talk to you next time on Books on Pod.